The All Blacks have just got themselves a massive win over the Italians, 96 points to 17, over 100 points scored throughout this fixture. And in this review, we're going to be looking through at the try scorers, also the stats throughout, and a few other important notes. But looking first of all through at the try scorers. Now for the ABs, there were plenty. There were quite a few early try scorers in that game as well. We will have them down the bottom. It was Will Jordan. He was able to get himself 2. Aaron Smith, he managed the hat-trick. Talia scored 1. Savia got 2. Retallick and Papali'i both scoring. Coles got himself the double win coming off the bench. McKenzie and Anton Leonard-Brown, the last 2 try scorers, both Chiefs boys and both coming off the bench as well. For the Italians, they were able to get themselves 2 tries. It was Capuzio who managed to score 1, and then the last minute try scored by Monty Ioane to give the Italians the 17 in total. But Aaron Smith scoring that hat-trick, it felt like a real statement was being made. He was saying, I'm going to be that starting 9. Roygaard's in tremendous form. Aaron wants that start with Roygaard as that impact player. And to be honest, in this game, I think it worked quite nicely. This was the first time for the All Blacks that we had seen Richie Mo'unga start a game with McKenzie coming off the bench rather than just having Mo'unga and then doing a bit of a reshuffle in that second half. And I think it actually worked a lot better, so I hope that is something that the All Blacks will do in the future as well. But looking through at some of the stats for this game, possession-wise, 57% in favour of the All Blacks, 53% for the territory department, although the Italians bringing it back quite nicely throughout that second half, as at halftime, I believe it was around 71% territory in favour of New Zealand. They did have 808 running metres here, New Zealand, with 31 defenders beaten. Something that was hurting the Italians were those missed tackles, as then the All Blacks were able to pounce on the opportunity and score themselves the tries. The Italians, though, to their credit, 411 running metres they were able to get for themselves, alongside beating 17 defenders. It was the set piece, though, by the Italians that made them really struggle, only winning 2 out of their 8 scrums and also only winning 6 out of their 11 lineouts. So anytime it went to the set piece, the ABs were dominant, which was a nice surprise, as in the last game up against Namibia at times, definitely at scrums, it didn't seem like it was that same way. But looking at the key players for New Zealand, the most running metres made by any player on the field was Will Jordan with 135, closely followed by Ardie Savia, who did actually have the most running metres throughout the first half. But alongside that 135 metres, Will Jordan also able to get himself the 2 tries, Savia getting 2 also, and Will Jordan having 4 offloads throughout this game as well. For Savia, he had the most gain line carries with 11, so always getting that front foot going forward, which helped the All Blacks make those extra metres. But in terms of standout players, very honourable mention needs to go to Jordie Barrett. The amount of difference that it made having him at number 12 compared to what we have seen from the All Blacks in their first 2 Rugby World Cup games was pretty much black and white. Completely different with Barrett at 12, helping that backline function. And I actually think Jordie Barrett at 12 made Beauden Barrett at 15 play a lot better throughout this game. As well, there were still a few weird moments when they were possibly looking to chip it across field just a bit too often rather than just putting it through the hands. But with the score the way that it was sitting, they still decided they wanted to try a few different things, see whether or not it would pay off. But in the 4-pack, I feel like the front row overall did actually do pretty well. I know I was harsh on Ofatuanga as well as Nepo Laulala, but they did what they had to here. The bench, when Tyrell Lomax and Tamaiti Williams made their way onto the field, they were next level in terms of those scrums, but overall, in general, I think Nepo Laulala and Ofatuanga having a couple pretty decent games. Scott Barrett, also strong for the ABs. In the backline, Mo'unga, his kicking was consistent, only missing the 1 kick of all the conversions. I think the player that let down the ABs the most in this contest was probably Rieko Ioane. We hardly saw him get that ball in hand, and when he did, there were a few times that he tried to offload in which the ball did hit the ground. A couple knock-ons. So not the best performance from Ioane. I wonder whether or not we're going to see something different for next week's game up against Uruguay, as I do believe the All Blacks need to stick with this foundation team of quite a few of their strong players in there rather than taking the risk of resting them and then them not being prepared for that quarterfinal. So to be honest, I'd quite like to see a Jordie Barrett 12, Leicester Nuku number 13 scenario. I don't know whether or not the ABs would do it, but I feel like stylistically that would actually work pretty well with the back line that they have currently got. But I'm not the coach. It's not up to me. It is up to Ian Foster and his selectors. And to be honest, I feel like the selection-wise this game, they may have got it right, which is good news. They also had a very strong bench though, which I'm glad to see, because in a few of the other games for the ABs, we haven't quite seen the bench have that same impact. For the Italians, the players who played well, I thought Garbisi was pretty solid. Varney at times didn't do too badly. But then that 4-pack for the Italians, I don't think there were many players that really stepped up to the level that they needed to when playing the All Blacks. Sebastian Negri, he had the most tackles made out of any player on the field. So a bit of a shout out to him. Also having a few running meters along the way. But unfortunately for the Italians, anytime the All Blacks were looking to attack, definitely in that second half, with those defensive gaps and the tackling errors, just meant that they kept on steamrolling their way through. But as you can see from the title of this video, are the All Blacks back? To be honest, I'm not too sure. I feel like this was a very good performance from them. It's positive and it's a good sign heading towards the quarterfinals, but we need to see a little bit more consistency from the ABs before we can judge whether or not they are back at their best as they head throughout this Rugby World Cup. They did still give away 7 penalties throughout this game. It did start creeping up in that second half compared to the Italian 14. So overall, still not too bad from the ABs to give away those 7. But a few of the penalties that were blown were for things they definitely won't want to be doing in the future. But the next game will be up against Uruguay. And if they win that game, they will be through to the quarterfinals. For the Italians, they have got their game next week up against France. And if they can win that game, they will be the team that make it through to the quarterfinals, but that will be ahead of the French. So it could be a massive upset. Before we go, we had her on the channel for the preview. We have to get her opinion on the post-match review as well. My mum gave the prediction of 30 plus in favour of the ABs. See what she thought of the game.
My opinion on the game, yes, we needed to win big, and we did. Go Will Jordan, 2 free $10 easy bets. Bodie Barrett, kicking game still not great, but the subs came on and finished the game off very nicely. Still have my concerns, but all in all, a good result.
Right, my analysis of the game. All Blacks played well against a very, very weak Italian team. 50 kgs lighter in the forward pack. They've just proved that you cannot compete unless you can have parity in the forwards. Every scrum becomes a penalty option. Every penalty becomes a kick it into the corner, rolling maul option, score tries, and Italy just weren't heavy enough, weren't big enough in the forwards to compete. So they got an absolute pizzling in that. Rico Ioane still makes silly decisions, which is a bit of a concern. And the other concern I had was that Bodie Barrett's kicking is still very poor with his little chip kicks. And he has no faith in Mark Talia on defence, which is a big concern. And I think that will get exposed in other games against better opposition. A couple of times Bodie Barrett came in off the wing or off the outside man to go towards Talia on defence and left the opening, one which resulted in this last try being scored, and another one during the game which resulted in a big break where Italy almost got down to the try scoring area. Those are my concerns. Sam Cane, that was a terrible drop ball, but I suppose he hadn't played any rugby for a bit, so we'll let him away with one, but I wouldn't have risked him in this game, but they seem to love him, so I suppose he's going to be in there. One huge thing that will come out of this game is that every other game we play from now will be slowed down because they're not going to let the All Blacks play a fast game like they got to play here. Quarterfinals is all going to be referee orientated because the games are just going to get slowed down either through people being offside, people killing the ball. It's never ever going to get to see another running game like this in the World Cup from quarterfinal stage.
So there you go. You got the 2-for-1 special. My mum and my dad, their opinions on the game. They did watch it from the other room. But overall, still a bit to learn about the ABs throughout this World Cup. But I do look forward to the journey that they do have from here. But thank you all very much for tuning in to this review. If you did enjoy, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And I will see you all for the next one.